Okay, welcome back. In the previous film, I explained the overall idea in the documentary hypothesis about the flood story, that there are two stories hidden in the text in the Bible, two contradicting stories, and I showed that in the text there is not two complete flood stories, that it's simply not true. But in this film I will talk about, can it still be that there are two different stories combined? Maybe not all of them. For instance, in J there is no description of the ark, building of the ark, or how to build it. It have had to be such a description, but maybe the editor left that part off from J. That is also what some of the who support the documentary hypothesis say. So maybe it's like that. Just took away some parts. Then of course the problem is, if the editor took away such important parts, then of course he could take away any part which would otherwise become a doublet, two times telling the same thing. That is a problem, because that is really the foundation, or the idea behind, the explanation behind why there are so many doublets in the flood story, because the editor really wanted to ipsissima verba, word for word, keep the words of the two sources intact. But if he didn't do that, why did he take away two descriptions of the building of the ark and not two descriptions of something else? So it's really a problem if you have to step away from that there are really two complete sources in the flood story. But as I noted, that is the case. There is not two complete stories. So the next thing you can try is accept, okay, there are not two, but still you find traces of two different versions, partly contradicting versions with different styles, very different styles from two different writers. The most obvious reason for this is, according to Westermann, there are double introductions. There are two introductions found. Other things that shows that there are really two different flood stories in the text, that you find different number of animals. You find different length on the flood. You find that Noah and the animals go into the ark twice, and the flood starts twice, or more than twice. So these are these you find in most of the books who talk about the flood story in academic literature, if it follows the documentary hypothesis at least. But I hope you have listened to my presentation about what becomes before the flood story, what are the techniques used when the text goes from the creation story to the Toledot of heaven and earth, and when the text goes from the Toledot of heaven and earth, chapter 2 to 4, and the Toledot of man, or mankind, or Toledot of Adam, starts in chapter 5. Will we find the same technique here or not? When we know what we should expect, and that is, first, we should expect to find a Toledot formula. This is the way the text in the primeval history and first book of Moses, Genesis, is structured. After the Toledot formula, you should find an introduction, which don't use Vayikdol, the narrative form. After that, the story starts with the Vayikdol. You should also expect to find that these units are linked in a way that in the beginning of the flood story, in this case, you will find the same theme as in the Toledot of mankind, and especially in the end of mankind. That is the way the writer links these units together. That is what you expect. Okay, let's see. What does it start with? The Toledot of Noah. That is, this first thing which is said, this is the Toledot of Noah. The Toledot formula. Exactly, of course, what we expect. Then Noah is presented. He is a righteous man. He is flawless in his generation. And he walked with God. Here is the verbs haita and hithalech. No narrative form is used. So here is an introduction introducing Noah. Exactly what we expected. And if we consider what did the last Toledot end with, that was with these words: Noah had found grace in the eyes of the Lord. The last thing mentioned is Noah, that he had found grace. There is no explanation why he had found grace. But here the explanation comes. So it links the Toledot of mankind with Toledot of Noah. The last and the first, the same. Talk about Noah. What did come before the mention of Noah? What was then told in the end of the Toledot of mankind in chapter 6, the 8 first verses, especially the 4 last? It's this: how the Lord saw, and evil on earth were overflowing, every form of the thoughts of the heart, only evil every day, and he regretted that he had made man on earth. And he said, I will extinguish man as I created from the face of the earth. And with all the animals, and I really regret I've done it. This is what comes before, next to last, before the Noah is mentioned. And let's check then what comes next in the Toledot of Noah, when after the introduction. It's this: the same. Corrupted was the earth before the face of God, filled was the earth of unrighteousness. And God saw the earth, and behold, it has been corrupted, and so on. So here we return to the first was Noah, linked to the what came last. Next to last, description of the situation on the earth. Next to last, the same. So we have a double, linked in 2 ways to the previous Toledot, but not anymore to the previous Toledots. Not anymore to actually. So this is called concatenatio, linking together. This technique is used all the time by the writer. It's exactly what you expect to find. So, what according to Westermann really demonstrates that the Bible, there is 2 different sources hidden, the 2 parallel what he called introductions. The truth is, with all due respect to Mr. Westermann, he hasn't understood how the text is structured. It's sad, of course. But the knowledge of how the Hebrew is written and the text is constructed, the knowledge of it has grown immensely since the days of Westermann, and when he wrote his commentary, the 70s and 60s. So, but it's beautiful, a beautiful concatenatio. So there are not two introductions. Okay, I will stop here, and in the next film I will talk about the number of animals. How many are there? Are there different numbers or not? Does the flood start many times? And so on. So, see you in the next film. Thank you.